This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Looking for these better days.
It is Monday, July 27th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. Phillies win on Sunday Night Baseball, salvage the final game of a 3-game set with the New York Yankees. Do we have Sunday night fades tonight? Plus, news in the NFL, Jacoby Brissett has a pay bump, and we begin our 32 previews in 32 shows with the Baltimore Ravens on this episode of Better Day presented by FanDuel. Let's start in Major League Baseball. Last night, Cy Young candidate Christopher Sanchez took the bump as the Phillies took on the Yankees on Sunday Night Baseball. We had the Phillies in the first 5 innings laying a half a run, and that was a no-sweat winner as Philly had a 6-3 lead after 5 innings. It was 6-0 going into the top of the 5th inning when Christopher Sanchez, who had an up-and-down night, like he got himself into trouble and then battled out of trouble and then was tagged for 3 runs in that 5th inning. Then he stayed in for the 6th inning and wound up throwing 101 pitches. When it was all said and done, 3 runs on 6 hits with 6 strikeouts and 3 walks in 6 innings. His ERA ballooned to 2.73, and his odds up on FanDuel to win the National League Cy Young actually took a dip. Jacob Mizorowski remains the favorite. His odds on FanDuel right now, minus 260. Prior to last night's start for Sanchez, he was tied with his teammate Zach Wheeler and Chris Sale of the Braves as the co-second favorites at plus 750. Well, after last night's performance against the Yankees, Sanchez is now plus 950 to win the NL Cy Young Award. As for Jacob Mizorowski, I said that his odds were dumb when we went to the All-Star break and he was minus 550. And the main reason was because he is going to be on an innings limit for the remainder of the season, right? The Brewers publicly announced that they're going to monitor Jacob Mizorowski's innings. And they skipped the start prior to the All-Star break. They skipped the start after the All-Star break. He only throws 4 innings against the New York Mets. And then yesterday, he only throws 5 innings against the Colorado Rockies. However, in those 5 innings, the dude was record-setting. Forget about the velocity. Forget about, setting records with pitch speed and whatnot. He struck out the first 7 batters that he faced, 12 of the first 13 batters that he faced. He became the first pitcher since 1920 to have 11 strikeouts without allowing a hit in the first 4 innings of a game. He finished with 5 innings, allowing 1 run on a solo home run. That was the only hit he allowed. 12 strikeouts, and his ERA is now at 1.58 on the season. I said this last night when I was on my VSiN show that I love Zach Wheeler to win the Cy Young. I bet him. You guys know we've talked about the tickets on Zach Wheeler to win the Cy Young, and Wheeler's pitching tonight. We'll get to that game in just a moment. But after the performance yesterday from Miz, I've been thinking about the word that I used on VSiN last night, I'll use it again here on this pod, sensationalism. The sensationalism of Jacob Mizorowski with the strikeout records and the strikeout feats and the velocity, I think is going to sway voters when it's all said and done. Minus 550 was dumb. Minus 260 is probably still dumb because what if he only pitches 4 or 5 innings in every start for the remainder of the season? What if there's starts that are skipped here in the month of August and September? Like, we still don't know how much he's going to pitch and how much the Brewers are going to baby him down the stretch here. So I do think minus 260 is still dumb. But if this thing gets down below minus 200, I think we might have to go in on Miz here because I think his accolades might be too much for the writers to ignore. Now, that being said, I still think Christopher Sanchez has a lot of runway left in him to try and make an impression on the Cy Young voting here. There's a reason why he's a plus 750 second favorite right now. Wheeler, 10-2 on the year with a 2.16 ERA, gets the start as the Phillies are in Miami tonight to take on the Marlins. Tyler Phillips, goes for the Marlins. The Miami Marlins, who lost 12 straight games. This team has not won since the All-Star break. And I was thinking about the Marlins. First off, we bet the Marlins yesterday. And I'm so dumb for not betting them in the first five because they had a 3-1 lead after the first 5 innings. Like, that's the win that we should have gotten. Lake Bacher came in the 8th inning, gave up 4 runs in the top of the 8th inning to the San Diego Padres, and that's how the Marlins lost. I don't even know what to say anymore about this team. I tweeted out yesterday, they might never win a game for the rest of the year. Like, I just don't know. But I've been thinking a lot about this team, and I wonder if, and I think I said it on this pod, I mean, I definitely said it on my VSiN shows this weekend, I wonder if after the Marlins were winning all these games, and there was this positive, sentiment around the team about how they're not going to be sellers anymore. They're not going to trade Sandy Alcantara. They might actually be buyers at the trade deadline. And this is a team that's only 3 games out of the National League East behind the Braves, and they're currently in the position to be a wild card team in the NL. Well, I wonder if at that point, somewhere, whether it was within the organization or outside the organization, someone got wind of the Marlins' plans to still be sellers. And if that might have trickled its way into the clubhouse, maybe team morale took a hit, and that could be the reason why we've seen a downtick in their performance, 12 straight losses. I don't think it's a coincidence that they lose 12 straight games right as the moment as everybody's singing their praises, talking about how good this team is and how they're not going to be sellers here at the trade deadline. The reality is, and everybody's been saying it, you watch MLB Network as all the experts are talking about the trade deadline coming up. This losing streak is happening at the best time right now. This is the best thing that could have happened to the Marlins because now they are going to be sellers. They're going to trade Sandy Alcantara and maybe others, which is what they should do because they're not ready to compete right now. And it's not like this has to be a 5-year rebuild. Like, they can compete next year. They can compete for the next several years. But not this year. They're not good enough to compete this year. And this losing streak is happening at the perfect time for them because now they can get rid of all the delusions that they had when they were winning, and they can realize that they should be sellers and will be sellers here by the deadline, which comes your way on August 3rd. As for the game here tonight, I think I want to go with a under in the first 5. Maybe the Phillies bats are a little tired after the late night last night win against the Yankees. Wheeler should limit the Marlins offense, which has been pathetic lately. So maybe it's a first 5 under, or maybe it's just backing the Phillies in the first 5 or the Marlins team total to go under in the first 5. But I want to be behind Wheeler tonight in Miami for the Phillies. Now, the Yankees could be a Sunday night fade tonight as they take on the White Sox in Chicago after losing last night in Philadelphia. Max Fried is on the bump for the Yankees, making his second start since returning from the IL. He was great in his first start when he went 5 shutout innings, only allowing 1 hit and striking out 7. So Max Fried was pitching like Max Fried when he came back from the IL. I want to back that, but I also want to fade the Yankees bats. So I think maybe the full game under, or at the very least the first 5 innings under, because I think Fried will limit the White Sox offense, and I don't trust the Yankees offense to do anything right now. Cody Bellinger was just placed on the 10-day IL. He did not play last night against the Phillies. That weakens already what is a weak lineup for the New York Yankees. So I want to fade the Yankees while also backing Fried. So maybe it's a full game under or a first 5 under between the Yankees and the White Sox. We do have a day game today in Major League Baseball. It's the finale of a wraparound set between the Mariners and the Rangers from Arlington. Seattle, a -137 favorite up on FanDuel with George Kirby on the mound. Kumar Rocker counters for the Rangers. Some NFL news yesterday. Jacoby Brissett got himself a little pay bump as he gets a reworked deal for this coming season. $15.5 million guaranteed. He can make $21 million with incentives. No New Year's were added to this deal, so he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. But what this deal does solidify is that Jacoby Brissett will be the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, and they will not be handing over the reins to Carson Beck anytime soon. You don't give a guy a $15 million guaranteed pay bump if you're not planning on him to be your starting quarterback for the majority of this season. So Brissett will be the quarterback for the Cardinals, who are projected to have the worst record in the NFL and the number one overall pick in next year's NFL draft. Speaking of the NFL, today is the first day of our 32 in 32 series, where we will preview all 32 teams over the course of the next 32 shows leading up to kickoff of the 2026 NFL season. And we start with the Baltimore Ravens. 32 teams in 32 shows. It's 32 and 32 here on this episode of Better Day, presented by FanDuel. We start our NFL previews in the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens. Currently up on FanDuel, the Baltimore Ravens, the third favorite to win the Super Bowl at plus 1,200, behind the Los Angeles Rams at plus 550 and the Buffalo Bills at 10-1. The Baltimore Ravens tied with the Seattle Seahawks, the reigning Super Bowl champs, at plus 1,200. Now, obviously, the big news around the Ravens is the transition away from the John Harbaugh regime, and Jesse Minter takes over, the first-year head coach coming over from the other Harbaugh regime in L.A., where he was the defensive coordinator for the Chargers. Prior to that, he was with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. So this is his first stint as a head coach, and I gotta caution people with the expectations here with a first-year head coach. And it's not just a first-year head coach. It's a first-time head coach. Like, this isn't a guy like, okay, Jeff Hafley, for example, who's the new head coach in Miami. We could talk about him being a first-time NFL head coach, but he was the head coach at Boston College for a time, and he was successful as a head coach. You know what it takes to be the leader of an organization. And for a first-time head coach, a guy who has only ever been an assistant in his career and has only ever spent, 2 seasons in the NFL? That's it. He's been a college guy, 2 seasons in the NFL with Jim Harbaugh, and now he's ready to be an NFL head coach. There's got to be a learning curve. There's got to be some growing pains to come here with Jesse Minter as the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, that's not saying that the team's going to be bad. The talent is there, of course, and we know he is a great defensive coach. So defensively, the Ravens will be better this year than they have been in the past. But I do think we need to, temper our expectations of the Baltimore Ravens, just because we have to see the learning curve here for Jesse Minter as a first-time head coach. Up on FanDuel, odds to win the NFC North, the Baltimore Ravens, a minus 105 favorite ahead of the Cincinnati Bengals, plus 165, Steelers, plus 550, and then the Browns, plus 2,200. Your season win total up on FanDuel for the Baltimore Ravens is 10.5. The over is minus 140. The Ravens will open training camp coming up on Wednesday, and they did place 6 players on the active PUP list ahead of Wednesday's training camp opener. Defensive lineman Nnamdi Madubuike, as well as Travis Jones, John Jenkins, inside linebacker Teddy Buchanan, outside linebacker Adisa Isaac, and cornerback Bilal Cohn were all on the active PUP list. But there is good news on the most important player on that list is Nnamdi Madubuike, who has not played since week 2 of last season after suffering a neck injury. According to reports, Nnamdi Madubuike is going to be cleared as early as next week, could be cleared to practice. So good news for a very key player that Jesse Minter is hoping to have this year for the Baltimore Ravens defensive front. And speaking of this defensive front, of course, you have Calais Campbell on this team, even at his advanced age. Trey Hendrickson now, who should make an immediate impact. And in this Jesse Minter system, this Ravens defense could be formidable. Looking at the final trench report rankings from last season, which you can find up on betterday.com for Better Day Insider and Premium members. We had the Baltimore Ravens as the number 8 run defense in the NFL, and they finished the season as the number 28 pass rush in the NFL. So adding Trey Hendrickson, getting Matabuki back will help their pass rush for sure. On the offensive side of the ball, I think the biggest question mark is, what is this offense going to look like under new offensive coordinator Declan Doyle? Doyle, who is 30 years old, one of the youngest coordinators in the entire NFL, worked with Caleb Williams last year as the offensive coordinator in Chicago. And you wonder how much of that Ben Johnson influence you might see in this Baltimore Ravens offense. Last year, the Ravens were 16th in total yards on offense, 11th in points. And that was a drop-off from a team that regularly had one of the top offenses in football. In fact, it was just in 2024 when they led the league in total yards. But we saw the Chicago Bears improvement. They went from being last in 2024 in total yards to 6th in the NFL last season. I think one of the things that we can take away from, everything we've heard about Doyle and what we saw last year in Chicago is that he wants to be explosive. And maybe that helps Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers. Maybe we look at some props on longest receptions and things like that. But Caleb Williams last year, 28 completions that traveled at least 20 yards in the air, 5th most in the NFL. And so if they're going to be more of a downfield passing attack, that definitely makes us feel a lot better about Lamar's outlook, makes us feel better about Zay Flowers' outlook. Speaking of Zay Flowers, he spoke earlier in the OTA process about Declan Doyle, quote, "He has stuff that I've never seen, plays and routes and stuff to help you get open," end quote. So maybe this winds up being a big year for Flowers. I do think that the Ravens are the class of this division. I don't see the Bengals having this resurgence and winning the division. I certainly am down on the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll see what Mike McCarthy can bring in his first year. The Browns are an absolute mess, whether it's Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. We'll see how they figure things out there with the new coaching regime. So just by default, I think the Ravens win this division. But do I see them as an 11 to 12 win team? Do I see them as being one of the top seeds in the AFC? I just don't know yet. I mean, the talent is certainly there. I think there's just more question marks than answers right now for the Baltimore Ravens because of the new coaching hires. Because of how, pieces are going to fit together, because defensively, even though the scheme will be better, they are dealing with older players and players with injury history. I just think we have to have a wait and see approach here on the Baltimore Ravens. We will continue our 32 in 32 previews with the rest of the AFC North. Tomorrow, the Cincinnati Bengals. On Wednesday, the Cleveland Browns. On Thursday, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then on Friday, we'll turn our attention to the AFC South with the Houston Texans. We will be having guests on to preview these teams coming up, especially some of these teams that do have a lot of question marks. And I do think the Ravens do have question marks, as we just mentioned. But as a team with one of the highest win totals in the NFL and also one of the Super Bowl favorites, not much more to get into with them right now prior to training camp beginning. We might revisit them coming up a little bit later on as we get closer to the start of the NFL season. But 32 teams in 32 shows as we begin our NFL previews here on Better Day. Be sure to follow us on social media at Better_Day on Twitter. Follow the Better Day YouTube page. A reminder, the Better Day Football Show debuts on Thursday, August 13th, streaming live every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time on the Better Day YouTube and Twitter pages. And the Better Day mobile app is now live on the iOS App Store. So if you have an iPhone, go to the App Store and download the Better Day mobile app. And from there, you can learn how to become a Better Day Insider or Premium member. We will be sending out an email blast to all Better Day subscribers, whether you are a free subscriber or one of our Better Day Insider or Premium members. In celebration of the new app, we will be running a very, very discounted promo for your first month. So you don't want to miss that. So pay attention to your email that you will receive later on today here. So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you subscribe up on betterday.com. You can do so for free. Join our email list. Make sure you get the newsletters emailed to you each and every morning. And let's make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.